Why hair color matters more than you think after 60. She hadn't changed her hair color in decades, but suddenly it felt like it was changing her. Wasn't the lines on her face or the sweater she'd worn a dozen times before. It was something quieter, something in the mirror that didn't quite match how she felt inside. Many women reach this moment after 60. They sense it more than they see it. The realization that the color that once felt flattering now feels a little too harsh, a little too bold, or just not quite right anymore. The truth is, hair color doesn't just highlight your features, it reflects how you see yourself. And sometimes, without realizing it, it can quietly work against the softness and wisdom you've earned. As we age, our skin tone evolves. It becomes gentler, more translucent, and that means certain colors, especially the ones we've worn for years, may suddenly start draining us rather than lifting us. Maybe you've stuck with jet black because it always felt polished, or held onto a platinum blonde that once felt bold. Or maybe you've tried a vivid color, hoping to recapture a sense of energy, but found yourself wondering why it no longer feels like you. You're not alone in this. In today's video, we'll talk through 5 specific hair colors that many women over 60 might want to reconsider. Not because they're wrong, but because there may be softer, warmer, more radiant choices waiting to be explored. And we'll also look at 3 beautiful alternatives that bring warmth, light, and quiet confidence back to your reflection. Colors that don't hide your age, but honor it. Because color isn't about looking younger, it's about looking true to who you are now. So if you've ever looked in the mirror and thought, something's not quite right, but I don't know what it is, this might be the missing piece. Like, share, and subscribe if you've ever felt that quiet shift. Now let's begin with one of the most classic and most challenging shades after 60, jet black. Let's start with jet black on paper. It sounds timeless, sleek, sophisticated, but on the face of a woman over 60, it can quietly become something else. Many women stick with black hair out of habit or nostalgia. It's what they've always done, and for years, it worked. It brought structure to the face. It made the eyes pop. It felt put together. But here's the truth. What once added elegance can now create an unintentional contrast that feels sharp instead of soft. Jet black is one of the highest contrast shades, and as our skin tone changes, becoming more translucent with softer undertones, that intensity can start to feel overwhelming. Rather than framing the face, it can weigh it down. Fine lines appear deeper, cheeks look flatter, and the overall effect is a little too stark. Imagine a crisp black frame around a gentle watercolor painting. It demands attention, but it doesn't necessarily flatter what's inside. And then there's the upkeep. Even a few gray roots are impossible to hide with black, which means more dyeing, more appointments, more stress, for a look that may not be serving you anymore. One woman I spoke to said, "I kept coloring it black because I thought it made me look younger. But the moment I softened it, just a little, people told me I looked happier." That's the quiet power of the right shade. You don't need a dramatic makeover, just the right adjustment, a shift from bold contrast to gentle harmony. If you've worn black for years, there's nothing wrong with that. You wore it with pride, with elegance, but you also have permission to let it go. Color isn't about holding on. It's about evolving. Instead of fighting your features, why not choose a shade that moves with them? Coming up next, a color that many women turn to for brightness, but may actually be draining your radiance: platinum blonde. A color many women turn to in search of lightness, freshness, even a bit of playfulness. On magazine covers or celebrities, it can look chic and edgy. And for women over 60, it's often seen as a practical transition, a way to blend grays or embrace a bold new chapter. But here's where the story shifts. Platinum might seem like an easy solution, but in real life, especially on aging hair and softer skin, it can quietly work against you. See, platinum blonde is not just light, it's nearly colorless. And when your natural complexion has already begun to lose pigment and contrast, adding an icy tone can make your face appear flat, pale, or washed out. What feels bright in the bottle can look cold in the mirror. One woman shared, "I thought going light would make things easier, but I looked in photos and felt invisible." That's a feeling many women don't expect but quietly recognize once it happens. And then there's the texture. Bleaching hair to reach platinum levels strips away natural moisture. For women whose hair is already finer or more fragile after 60, that can mean breakage, brittleness, and a loss of natural movement. The color may look modern, but the feel often isn't. What you gain in boldness, you lose in softness. This doesn't mean blonde is off the table. Far from it. But instead of leaning into extremes like icy platinum or ash white, there are warmer, creamier alternatives that can bring back glow without losing depth. Remember, you're not giving up your spark, you're choosing to shine in a new way. Hair color is personal, it's emotional, and it should feel aligned with how you see yourself today. If platinum feels too cold, you're not doing it wrong. You're just ready for a shift. Next up, a color that promises boldness and vibrance, but can end up shouting when you really want to S. A shade that turns heads, commands attention, and carries a certain spark. For many women, red hair feels alive. It's expressive, full of personality, and often chosen as a way to reclaim vibrancy after 60. And there's no denying, red can be striking. It's bold, it's fun. But here's the gentle truth. Vivid reds rarely age the way we want them to. What begins as a bright cherry or copper fire can quickly shift into something else. Brassy, faded, sometimes even orange. Because red pigment is one of the hardest to maintain. It fades fast, especially on porous, aging hair. And when it does, it doesn't fade quietly. Many women find themselves stuck in a cycle, constantly refreshing, touching up, adjusting, but still ending up with tones that clash with their skin or draw attention in all the wrong places. And it's not just about color maintenance. It's about emotional maintenance too. You might have chosen red because you wanted energy, you wanted to feel bold. But somewhere along the way, the color starts wearing you. As one woman put it, "I kept thinking red would bring me back to myself, but all I saw in the mirror was how hard I was trying." That hits deep, doesn't it? Because color should never feel like effort. It should feel like ease, like alignment, like recognition. And when it comes to vivid red, it often ends up overpowering the very woman it was meant to celebrate. You don't have to abandon color entirely. But maybe it's time to soften the volume, move from bold to balanced, from shout to sparkle. Instead of chasing vibrancy, let your own natural warmth guide the tone. Because you deserve a color that moves with you, not one you have to constantly manage. Next, we'll look at a color that's meant to feel playful and modern, but often ends up feeling disconnected from who we really are. Deep purple. Sometimes called eggplant, violet, or even amethyst on the box. It's a color that feels creative, artsy, bold in an unconventional way. And for women over 60, it can feel like a statement. I'm not fading into the background. I'm still vibrant, still me. But here's the quiet reality. What's meant to feel playful and modern can sometimes end up feeling forced. Dark purples often have a cool, blue undertone, and when laid over mature skin, which tends to become warmer or more translucent with age, that contrast can be jarring. Instead of complementing your complexion, it competes with it. You might notice your skin looking dull or shadows under the eyes appearing more prominent. all because the hair color pulling attention away from your natural tone. And then there's the emotional mismatch. Purple is fun in theory, but when it doesn't align with how you feel inside, it can feel more like a costume than self-expression. One woman shared, "I thought it would be freeing to go purple, but every time I looked in the mirror, it felt like someone else's hair." And the upkeep, just like vivid red, purple fades fast, often into uneven, patchy hues, leaving behind a dull maroon or oddly tinted gray that's tough to correct for aging hair, which may already be more porous or uneven in texture. That fading happens even quicker, and even conditioning can't always bring it back. But here's what matters most. You don't have to prove your individuality with color. You already are unique, and your confidence doesn't need to be loud to be real. You're not hiding from color. You're choosing the version that actually reflects who you are now. And that reflection? It deserves softness, harmony, and ease. Next, we'll take a closer look at another color trend that seems youthful, but often creates more visual tension than connection: bold greens and edgy tones. And other so-called edgy colors, like teal, turquoise, or even blue-gray. These shades have become increasingly popular in recent years, especially in younger circles. They're playful, daring, and full of personality. And for women over 60, there's often a quiet temptation to break out of the mold, to try something new, to show the world, "I still have edge." But here's the gentle reality. What feels fun on the box or exciting on social media doesn't always translate into everyday life, especially on mature features. Green and teal tones tend to emphasize coolness. But as our skin loses contrast and undertone with age, these colors can drain warmth from the face. They don't highlight you, they spotlight the color itself. What's left is a visual disconnect. You walk into a room, and the hair speaks louder than the woman. One woman who tried a soft jade streak put it this way: "People complimented the color, but no one was looking at me." And beyond tone, there's texture. Vibrant shades like green require pre-lightening, which can damage hair fibers, especially when strands are already thinner or drier after 60. You might end up with color that pops, but texture that flattens, fizzles, or even breaks. There's also the question of identity. These colors are bold, yes, but do they express how you feel or how you hope to be seen? Color should align with who you are now, not who you feel pressured to become. You don't need teal tips to prove you're adventurous, and you don't need edgy streaks to show you still matter. You already do. And sometimes choosing softness, choosing harmony, choosing warmth, that's the most radical expression of self there is. So if bold green feels disconnected, if it adds more noise than joy, you have every right to leave it behind. Next, we're shifting the tone entirely. Let's move from caution to confidence and talk about what does work: colors that bring warmth, light, and softness back. You've just walked through 5 colors that may no longer be serving you, not because they're wrong, but because you've changed, and your reflection deserves to change with you. If any of those shades felt familiar, if you felt even a little twinge of recognition, that quiet moment of, "Maybe that's why I haven't felt quite like myself," you're not alone. Many women hold on to color out of habit, out of loyalty, or because letting go feels like losing a part of themselves. But here's the truth. You're not giving up. You're evolving. Your hair doesn't need to be louder. It just needs to be truer. And now we shift from colors that compete to colors that comfort, from maintenance-heavy habits to low-fuss tones that move with you, not against you. Because beauty after 60 isn't about reclaiming youth. It's about reclaiming alignment, finding the shades that bring your features forward, that soften where needed, and strengthen where it counts. We're about to explore 3 flattering, gentle alternatives that many women over 60 are embracing. Not to hide who they are, but to reflect who they've become. These aren't trends, they're timeless, and they come with ease, radiance, and a kind of beauty that whispers instead of shouts. Let's begin with one of the most quietly transformative choices, a soft, warm brunette. A shade that often gets overlooked, but offers one of the most graceful transitions for women over 60. Unlike jet black, which can feel stark, or vivid reds, which can feel loud, a warm brunette brings quiet depth, a kind of richness that flatters without overwhelming. Think mocha chestnut, a hint of cinnamon in the sun. Not too dark, not too light, just warm enough to bring life back to your skin. Because here's what happens when you go a touch warmer. Your skin starts to glow, your features soften, and suddenly the color isn't the focal point. You are. One woman who shifted from black to warm brown told me, "It felt like I got my face back, like people were seeing me again, not just my hair." And that matters, especially when you've spent years using color to stand out and suddenly realize you'd rather feel seen. Another gift of soft brunette. It's forgiving. You can blend in your natural grays or gradually lighten it over time without harsh grow outlines or endless maintenance. And for thinning or coarse hair, this tone reflects light in a way that adds visual fullness and softness without needing volume sprays or heat tools. So if you've been loyal to black or hesitant to go too light, this is your middle ground, a graceful step into warmth without losing definition. Because you don't need to erase your strength, just soften its edges. Next, we'll look at a shade that surprises many women with how naturally radiant it feels, creamy beige blonde. A color that offers lightness, but without the cold bite of platinum. It's soft, it's subtle, and most importantly, it flatters. Where icy blondes can wash out mature skin tones, a creamy beige adds gentle warmth, just enough to bring back that glow around the eyes, a soft lift at the jawline, and a natural brightness that doesn't feel forced. It's the difference between light that fades you and light that frames you. Many women think going blonde after 60 means going lighter, but really, it's about going warmer. Beige blonde sits right in that sweet spot, not too yellow, not too silver, just warm enough to reflect who you are today. And it plays well with natural gray. You don't have to dye every inch. You can weave in highlights, add a soft balayage, or let it blend with your roots in a way that feels effortless. One woman told me, "I didn't want to fight my gray anymore, but I still wanted to feel fresh." Beige blonde was the first time a color felt like a compromise I didn't have to explain. And that's the beauty of it. This isn't about hiding. It's about softening. About choosing light that complements your features, not competes with them. And when it comes to texture, creamy beige doesn't require harsh bleaching, especially when added in gradual tones, so your hair stays healthier, shinier, and more touchable. This is for the woman who wants brightness without bravado, who wants to feel lifted, but still grounded in who she's become. Now, let's explore one last alternative for those who are ready to embrace their natural journey with just a touch of something special. Soft silver with dimension. Not the dull gray you might be fearing, but the kind that catches the light, shimmers in the sun, and quietly says, "I'm here, and I'm at peace with me." For many women over 60, the thought of going gray feels like surrender, like giving something up. But when done intentionally, with tonal variation, subtle lowlights, and a gentle silver glaze, it can become one of the most elegant, freeing transitions you'll ever make. Silver with dimension isn't flat. It moves, it reflects, it holds softness and strength, like silk rather than steel. Instead of fighting every root, you're working with your natural growth, but guiding it gently, adding shape and light where you choose. And the emotional shift that comes with this? Powerful. One woman shared, "When I stopped coloring and added just a few soft highlights to my natural gray, People didn't say I looked older. They said I looked calm, like I knew who I was. That's what we're really after. Not youth, but alignment. And for those with coarse or thinning hair, silver tones can actually make strands appear fuller when paired with the right texture-enhancing cut. A soft wave, a light layer, suddenly your hair has presence again. You don't have to give up color completely. This isn't about going gray. It's about going gracefully, silver on your own terms. And if you're not quite ready to let it all grow in, you can still ease into it. Add a pearl tone here, a silver glaze there, until what you see in the mirror feels like a reflection, not a memory. So whether you choose soft brunette, creamy beige, or dimensional silver, remember this: your hair doesn't have to be a battle. It can be a conversation. And now, let's close with a few words about what that conversation means today for you. We've talked about color, but really, this has been about clarity, because every shade we choose isn't just about how we look, it's about how we feel when we see ourselves. Maybe you've worn jet black for decades, or gone bold with red, purple, even teal. And those colors, they mattered. They served a version of you that was strong, expressive, and beautifully brave. But sometimes, what worked for us then doesn't feel right now. And that doesn't mean you've lost anything. It means you're tuning in to softer skin, to changing light, to a new rhythm in your life that asks for less fight and more ease. You're not trying to look 30 again. You're trying to look like you, now, with warmth, with softness, with color that reflects not who you were, but who you've become. And here's the beautiful truth: you don't need to make a dramatic change overnight. Even a shift in tone can shift how you see yourself. Maybe it's warming up your brunette, softening your blonde, or letting silver come through. Just enough to feel like freedom, because you're already radiant. You just need the color that says so. Gently. So tell me in the comments, have you made a change recently? Have you found a color that feels more like you? I'd love to hear your story. And so would someone else who's wondering if it's time for them too. Like, share, and subscribe if this spoke to something quiet in you. And remember, your age is not a problem to solve. It's a palette to work with. So choose colors that honor it. Not loud, not harsh, just quietly beautiful.